Okay. We'll talk about Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden in the postgame, but let's talk about Barack Obama and Joe Biden now. We have some sound from Barack Obama's endorsement of Joe Biden, and we've got some stuff to unpack before we get to Paul O'Connell and Slavoj Žižek. Let's start with Barack Obama. This is the section where he talks about Bernie Sanders' role in the campaign, and this is the rhetorical push to the left. Let's check out President Obama.
Candidates were talented and decent, with a track record of accomplishment, smart ideas, and serious visions for the future. And that's certainly true of the candidate who made it farther than any other.
Oh my God.
Bernie Sanders.
Pause it.
Bernie's an American original, a man who has...
Sorry, I'm really trying to play this straight. It's so enraging. Like, just spare us, guy who pressured Klobuchar and Buttigieg out of the race, multi-hundred millionaire Netflix producer. Just spare us. Okay, but he won't, because that's the whole point. Let's go.
Has devoted his life to giving voice to working people's hopes, dreams, and frustrations. He and I haven't always agreed on everything, but we've always shared a conviction that we have to make America a fairer, more just, more equitable society. We both know that nothing is more powerful than millions of voices calling for change. And the ideas he's championed, the energy and enthusiasm he inspired, especially in young people, will be critical in moving America in a direction of progress and hope. Because for the second time in 12 years, we'll have the incredible task of rebuilding our economy. And to meet the moment, the Democratic Party will have to be bold. You know, I could not be prouder of the incredible progress that we made together during my presidency. But if I were running today, I wouldn't run the same race or have the same platform as I did in 2008. The world is different. There's too much unfinished business for us to just look backwards. We have to look to the future. Bernie understands that, and Joe understands that. It's one of the reasons that Joe already has what is the most progressive platform of any major party nominee in history. Because even before the pandemic turned the world upside down, it was already clear that we needed real structural change. The vast inequalities created by the new economy are easier to see now, but they existed long before this pandemic hit.
You can say that again.
Health professionals, teachers, delivery drivers, grocery clerks, cleaners, the people who truly make our economy run, they've always been essential. And for years, too many of the people who do the essential work of this country have been underpaid, financially stressed, and given too little support.
For 8 years.
On the exchange.
And that applies to the next generation of Americans. Young people graduating into unprecedented unemployment. They're going to need economic policies that give them faith in the future and give them relief from crushing student loan debt. So we need to do more than just tinker around the edges with tax credits or underfunded programs. We have to go further to give everybody a great education, a lasting career, and a stable retirement. We have to protect the gains we made with the Affordable Care Act, but it's also time to go further. We should make plans affordable for everyone, provide everyone with a public option, expand Medicare, and finish the job so that healthcare isn't just a right, but a reality for everybody. We have to return the U.S. to the Paris Agreement and lead the world in reducing the pollution that causes climate change. But science tells us we have to go much further, that it's time for us to accelerate progress on bold new green initiatives that make our economy a clean energy innovator, save us money, and secure our children's future. Of course, Democrats may not always agree on every detail of the best way to bring about each and every one of these changes. But we do agree that they're needed. And that only happens if we win this election. Because one thing everybody has learned by now is that the Republicans occupying the White House and running the U.S. Senate are not interested in progress. They're interested in power.
All right, that's it.
They've shown themselves willing to kick millions.
So let's start from backwards. There's a lot to tease out here. I'll kick to you guys in a second, but I just want to say, yes, that's why the Republicans win, and good on them for being interested in power and not vague, ephemeral ideas of bringing everybody together. Mm-hmm. Now, I also want to say too, we'll tease everything else apart. I'm not in a different place in terms of if you're in a swing state voting to get Trump out of office. I have not heard a compelling counter argument to that. I'm not going to be policing people. I'm not going to be demanding the people. I'm not going to be, doing the same. This show is really not going to be very much about that. Obviously, we're going to talk about the election, but there's a lot of other stuff that we got to deal with here because we're in a very bad situation. But that being said, don't indulge in any type of bedtime story. And that Barack Obama is pure obfuscation, bedtime story, and nonsense. You can disaggregate between that and the decision that is most intelligent and strategic to make. But people coming out and talking about the platform committees and looking at Obama's, they're not even bones. They're like little Triscuit treats to the left. This is a guy who supported single payer rhetorically when he was a state senator. This is somebody who, just like Bill Clinton, when he is not in office, Bill Clinton did very compelling critiques of a drug war that he accelerated. Barack Obama presided and expanded a vast bailout of Wall Street with zero accountability that further financialized the economy and ushered in the Silicon Valley temp economy that has caused so much devastation. That's the record. All right, guys.
I mean, I think it's very telling that, he barely went into any detail, and the only detail that he went into was basically saying that the Biden campaign, the way forward was not to pursue Medicare for all, right? I think it's time, and I think people are better aware of it than they were in 2008. But I think it's really important that we don't fall into this trap where it's like, this is what Democrats' game has always been. As you were saying, it's like they just motions like, look, these are all these problems in society. And then when it comes to do anything or to mobilize people about them, they give us platitudes and, like the whole Obama, the whole Joe Biden politics right now is just to say, like, I get it, man, but we can't really do much about it. And that's fundamentally, that's why we're in the situation that we're in. I think that it's telling that Obama had to play behind the scenes this entire race, like, making these deals happen. He wasn't very much out there in public, for example, like advocating for Joe Biden. I think
he wants to preserve his capital.
I think that's the Obama reality. And I mean, we'll see, but I just don't see how much this is going to move people at this point, because Joe Biden is just on the simple level of the fact that Joe Biden is going to continue to reveal himself as somebody who's just very much incapable mentally of performing at this level. I don't know. I think that it's going to be a very difficult case to make over the next few months.
I don't look to Obama for a whole lot of sincerity in these things, but even for me, looking at him in those close-ups, when you can see his eyes scanning the written words that he's reading back and forth,
yep, there's
something terrifying about looking at like how just checked out some of these people are. Like, yeah, I'll throw this to Joe. Hope November turns out well. It's like, I hope so too. But like you said, I mean, remember even like 2016, the idea that Obama's going to drop a video and everyone's going to like actually get interested in that. Like, we're way beyond that now.
That was a piece that I read. One of the pieces, I think it was either in the New York Times or Politico. I don't have it in front of me, but it was talking about, basically, again, the reporting is very clear. There was a minute there where those of us who responded to the first reporting, and it was really obvious that Obama was talking with Buttigieg and Klobuchar and nudging things, or not just, I mean, orchestrating clearing the field for Biden. And we all said that. And there was, of course, this was like how these things always work, which is the left says something, and then people are like, well, actually, that sounds kind of conspiratorial. And then 6 weeks later, it just reported that that's what happened. So now it's like definitively, yes, exactly, just like with labor. So now it's definitively reported that Obama played this role. And again, I guess this is the thing where it's like, I'm an outlier. It's just like, yeah, of course he did that. Why would this surprise anybody? Like, duh.
At the same
we
time,
know who Barack.
Let's drive that lesson home to people, because there's a lot of people that seem invested in bullshitting about it right now.
That's insane. Yeah. Barack Obama is the leader of the right-wing corporate wing of the Democratic Party. If that triggers you, or you want to nibble around, do what he said, I agree. Now is not the time for nibbling around the edges. Now is the time for big, clear, definitive policy. And again, this is also where the left needs to be really real. We have been defeated. Defeat is not eternal. Defeat does not mean that we won't eventually win. Defeat doesn't mean that you can't have some optimism. But the rhetoric of optimism now is delusional. We've suffered a huge defeat. There aren't easy, apparent answers. I will read my Nancy McLean and look at Democracy in Chains. I will think of DACA, and I will say, yeah, I think it's a good idea to get rid of Donald Trump. But I also could tell you that anybody who's telling you like, oh, no, you got to listen to those words, these words, they're so important. They don't mean a fucking thing. They beat us. There were some mistakes that we made. Oh, and there was a whole cable news running as a super PAC against Bernie Sanders. Barack Obama, and this is the thing I was going to cite in that article, is that they have the idea that Obama can still mobilize the youth vote. And it was one of those moments for me where I don't have any political or ethical expectations of the Democratic Party leadership. They're gone. It's not even that they're gone. We just have completely different views of the world. We care about poverty. We care about delivering for everybody. We care about a democratized future. This is not what these people's ideology is. It's not what their policy set is. And they've worked for decades to create precisely the opposite. But that's delusional. I always say, when I see something that's delusional, whether it be from any ideological corner, in a way, that's what freaks me out most. And if you think that Barack Obama in 2020 is 2016, that should have already been the lesson. Forget 2012. I mean, let alone 2008, 2006. The moment is done. And the very funny thing and kind of depressing thing about President Obama is that, of course, as the first black president, that's history, period, full stop. That's it. And this, his political talent is undeniable. But the rest of it is going to be consolidated Wall Street in Silicon Valley, went and made a massive amount of money, used his political influence with efficacy to stop reform of the Democratic Party when he went to the mat against Keith Ellison, and to muscle out the movement that was actually in large part driven by people who, in a lot of cases, their first act of belief in politics was his campaign. Yeah, from the younger generation perspective.
I mean, I think that's a good point. And also, when he says, obviously, he's not going to come out and say exactly what he means by this, but when he says, I have many disagreements with Bernie, that's something that we really need to be unpacking. Remember, this is somebody who, during one of the Obama saying we're living through another financial crisis. I mean, the stage was set very much by his response to the crisis. Obama, in a meeting of CEOs, in the height of the crisis, said, my administration is the only thing standing between you and the pitchforks. When literally, and obviously there's structural problems with Occupy, but literally there was a mass mobilization of people across this country demanding something different, right? There were political opportunities, political space. People, wanted something different and were quite vocal about it. But Obama,
it was even worse, David. I'm sorry. I just have to say, timeline-wise, it was even worse. Because he said the pitchfork thing in the very beginning, before Occupy. At the same moment, he was intimating to people on the left, telling the Roosevelt story that may or may not be true, the quote unquote make me do it thing.
Yeah.
Then they did Occupy. He took some of their rhetoric and gave an inequality speech where he promoted something like tax credits or whatever. And then, and you can look, the Department of Homeland Security facilitated and backed police departments in cities across the country and destroying those encampments.
Yeah.
So it's even worse.
No, I think that's an important clarification. I mean, look, this is the reality, and it's also, I mean, it's just saying one thing to another. The tax credit talk. I mean, I learned about how Democrats love to talk about using tax credits instead of dealing with structural issues from watching the Obama administration. I mean, the fact is that the young people, like, these are dead politics to folks. I know there's a lot of people who, like, especially there's like people who are in the Bernie camp, and then there's a kind of youth population that, I don't know, some of them are pro Bernie, some of them aren't as like in our camp directly, and they like memes and, about like, Pelosi clapping and stuff like that. Like, Obama might have sway with those people, but I don't think that represents any kind of massive coalition. I guess it's just like, I think the Democrats are making a huge gamble, obviously, on Joe Biden. We know the fact is, though, that we lost. But it's very disheartening to see how willing this party is to, I don't know, to basically squash a mass movement again for the benefit of the rich. And I think it's very telling what Obama has done in his post-presidency, which has basically been cashing in on the fact that he effectively was the person standing in between these CEOs and the pitchforks. I mean, that's the real Obama legacy.
I'm going to be able to make documentaries about how shitty everything is for the next 30 years.
I mean, yeah, that's like the outcome, is that in 6 years, like, I'm EPing something about, it's kind of an imaginative documentary of what if Bernie won. Might have been kind of nifty. Let's get that to the Academy Awards. Maybe Harvey Weinstein Jr. can produce it. That's exactly what it is. That's the very, I mean, obviously with Obama, it would never be applied to foreign policy, but that whole mindset of like, the people that I just can't get over this. I don't remember I don't even remember this was a joke that we first made or somebody on Twitter that I can't credit. I don't know the origin. But like after the coup in Bolivia of when, you had like a bunch of idiots saying that it wasn't a coup. And I remember somebody, and again, it literally could have been one of us, but the joke was, and it could have been somebody else, but the joke was something to the effect of like, oh, do you need to wait for 3 years for when Netflix produces like a thoughtful documentary for you to realize what's happening in front of your face?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, and that is like, that's why when Obama puts out his reading list, and, who knows if he's even, I mean, look, obviously he reads, there's another thing that, the liberal classes are very into. Obama's a very smart guy. He reads. I don't know if he actually read Surveillance Capitalism, but it is extraordinary. Audible. I was there. I was sitting on Richard Branson's yacht, and I was listening. I was watching. I was crazy. I was watching Alicia Keys give Timbaland brain. No,
we were doing cannonballs, and I had it on the speakers, and I could hear about every other paragraph because I was.
And apparently, I did not do much to make sure that Facebook wasn't getting your pictures.
I mean, with that being said, the Obama campaign was lauded for its use of targeted ads using Facebook's, information and all of that, while Donald Trump is demonized for it.
See, this is a really good point. And this is a point where I think people always need to make the distinction that like part of the thing with Trump was that Cambridge Analytica and Facebook like apparently illegally obtained certain data. Like you have to make these distinctions. And at the same time, 100%.
Yeah.
The 2012, the whole media narrative was like, these guys have the best private spying behavioral anticipation apparatus in the history of campaigns. Mm-hmm. And then when, of course, Trump and the Mercers and Bannon are going to do something that is going to like, almost certainly, I would assume, get even illegal, which is, when you think about how lightly regulated everything is, if they broke the law, that's incredible. Right. Yes. But it is going to be like, but it is going to be. And again, that's another thing that tracks with a lot of the voting population. That's what people sniff. Mm-hmm. We've said this before, like people's hatred of liberal hypocrisy and liberal bullshit is not all Republican manufactured talking points. It is a felt sense amongst a lot of people, including folks that are not reactionary at all. And that's a great example of like, when we do it, it's innovative. Let's do an MIT symposium. When you do it, that's Russia.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you see the person going after Brie because she mentioned the word Burisma? It's like, do you honestly, do you really think the average American cares as much about Ukrainian politics as they do about a local politician's kid getting a free ride at a fucking oil company somewhere? Like, that's the stuff that actually gets through to people. I don't care about like making them see a more rational be more rational about geopolitical politics, as Meghan McCain would say. Like, it's everyone understands what a dumb kid getting a job is. Like,
everybody understands what a dumb kid getting a job is. It's a time when we need to get more real about geopolitical politics, which is why I'm endorsing Joe Biden and launching a new Audible podcast with Michelle, where we look at the community change makers. These are the people that love the community change makers. And I mean, it's another reason that we can't fetishize words like movement and whatever, because it's like, you don't know what it means most of the time. And it's commodified by people, by the Obamas of the world.
Maybe just use that type of terminology in retrospect as a historian.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and also we'll talk about it in the post game, but frankly, it's more justifiable with Biden because he's not all there. Mm-hmm. But one of the most disturbing things about the Biden-Bernie thing is like, and I'm sorry, you're not going to get hate from Bernie from me. Sorry, folks. And actually, and if you want to be fucking pissed at Bernie about anything, it's his role in the bailout. That was a failure of leadership. And I have no problem saying
the recent one.
Sorry?
The recent one.
The recent one. Yeah. Oh, no, it was great in the last one. And there's a lot of, I get why he did, but I'm saying if you're looking for a reason to critique him, that there's valid critique there. Him doing this is, look, Bernie was really concerned about Trump, and Bernie always said he was going to do this. But Joe Biden looks like he's reading a teleprompter during that thing. And it's just so bizarre to be in dialogue, and reading a teleprompter. And and Obama's there just doing like, I still got this. Check it out. I remember this like back when I first told people in Hyde Park that I cared about affordable housing. I don't give a fuck. Say it the Netflix gala, motherfucker. I mean, the thing with Obama, and of course Obama's not Tony Blair. Obama's, he has a very good sense of personal PR. He's very strategic. He's not as utterly, he's not craven and venile in the way a Bill Clinton or Tony Blair is. But like, even if we're doing these measurements, this is not Jimmy Carter. This is a guy who left office and was like, I want to be a showbiz impresario and make a lot of money. And that's an important class context to understand because, I could tell you what, I know that President Obama, I am sure he's disturbed and appalled by Trump, but I'm also sure that he doesn't have any, he's going to be fine if there's another 4 years of Trump. Look at tax cuts.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's we know this already. And I think the problem that we're going to have to face is one, I don't know, institutionally within the Democratic Party beating these people. And then two, in the popular narrative, being able to make this story a little clearer to some people. I don't think that this is going to do much for the Bernie people. I don't think it's going to do much for the young people. I think they're pissed off and they're
No, I don't think so.
But there's
what more do you want, devils?
I thought Bernie was our cult leader. Don't we have to listen to
exactly
what he says? I already ordered all my Biden merchandise.
Bernie, spin the dreidel so you can activate your cult.
I mean, that's the point I just want to make about
white people can't think independently. So if you endorse Joe, it'll be fine.
About this whole Biden thing, like we're already just moved into voter discipline mode. It's because, and not into let's knock on doors for Biden mode. It's because these people are not workers themselves; they are managers. Like that's who feels represented in this campaign right now, and that's going to be a problem. I hope they win, but that's going to be the problem, and not Bernie.
No,
Bros.
that's 100% right. Because now is the time for you guys to get active.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's amazing. And you know, yeah, that's it. I mean, it's extraordinary to watch somebody like Mehdi Hassan, who legitimately does some really good work. I don't have any real. I mean, I obviously have disagreements, but I don't have some big beef with him at all. But it's like, just tactically, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Unless the game is just emotional payoff and career advancement with other people, which I don't want that to be the case. But there's no way on earth that you could possibly think that this is going to help you achieve what you say you want to achieve. It's just not. It's just utterly not strategic. But I think, Matt, you nailed it. It's worker bees versus managers, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get any worker bees for this. Like, that's not going to happen. So you better figure it out. And look, Joe Biden showed that you know what? Like, you can swoop in with a consolidated media and party apparatus and it will totally blow that stuff out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe it'll work. But look, we're going with that play. So don't bitch at people. Go do what you got to do.
Yeah. I think they've made their strategy, and I think that they need to accept it. I think that they've dealt with the left, before Bernie. That was pretty, they kick and scream every once in a while, but they weren't organized in any sense or fashion. Whereas, like, you could just sort of smack them on the head and make them do what you want. And I don't think that we're in that kind of dynamic anymore. And this strategy is not going to work for them. And it's also like on our side too. We're not organized to be able to utilize it to our benefit either, unfortunately.
You just watched a Michael Brooks show video. Subscribe to get them all. Why wouldn't you? Don't be foolish. Click subscribe below and become a patron as well. Patreon.com/TMBS. Thanks, everybody.